Okay, so we're back. So let me do an intro here. Vivian and Bruno's Motu News. Yeah. Okay, there we go. Motu, of course, being Masters of the Universe. Although, we started with the reboot of a spin-off, of course, as one
does.
And so yeah, this is part 2. And She-Ra and the Princess of Power was Vivian's entryway into Masters of the Universe.
Mm-hmm.
So the way we approach this is we're not necessarily going to do it like that every single time, but we kind of just open the list of characters and kind of like give our opinions of like every single character and their maybe not in detail for every character, but we kind of went through their character arcs. So instead of doing the show, like the seasons or whatever, because it had been a while and it kind of becomes a one single big season, if you will. Mm-hmm. So we just went through the characters. And I think we discussed Bo, we discussed Netosa, right?
Yeah.
Castaspella, we kind of Seahawk. Queen Angela, I think we briefly mentioned.
I like her. She served her purpose, you know?
Yeah, she served her purpose. There you go. Okay, this one. So let's continue where we left it off, and then at least in the order that Google gave us the characters, which made Bo like
way too far
later. We should have been like at the very beginning.
Yeah.
In the first 3, but whatever. Swiftwind.
Listen, if you're gonna put a communist Pegasus in the show, I'm gonna love Swiftwind. Like, Swiftwind is amazing. I think there's the right amount of Swiftwind because Swiftwind is a character I feel like kind of like Seahawk, if they were in every scene, would get annoying quickly. But because they're only in some of the scenes, every time they're there, they're like, great lines, this is wonderful. You love the dynamic with Adora. And because he's not there all the time, it doesn't get old.
What if I were to tell you that I would totally watch a Seahawk show?
Oh, I believe it. And like, I think having a Seahawk show as its own sort of spin-off is definitely something you could do, because like when that's the main kind of character, that's a different feel to the show. If that makes sense.
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah, like
the same way. Yeah, the same way. I think what I was mentioning last time is there's things they do with male characters that kind of mock conventions a bit, where I'm really comfortable with it in She-Ra, but I might not be comfortable in other shows to be explored later. Hint, hint. But it kind of depends. Let's say it, who the show's supposed to serve mainly, even though other people can enjoy it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but can you elaborate the whole communist Pegasus thing? Because that lost me a bit.
Well, because like he's very much like one of his first lines is talking about freeing the horses in the stables and like doing a revolution and like equine
but that's
rights.
Anti-slavery. That's not necessarily communist. That's just
this is true, but there was definitely sort of like a revolutionary aspect. It has been a long time since
I personally, since this was brought up, like I'm very wary of the political spectrum. I try to. I'm on the left for sure, but I would call my position centrist left because my dad is from Spain, so I've seen like the far right where it can go, and my wife's family comes from Cambodia, so the far left can be also like this whole other thing. Oh, yeah. So I am left, like I don't know, 90% of the time, and try to be as centrist as possible because of knowing these things. But I will disagree on the communist agenda, but I will agree that Swiftwind is anti-slavery, anti-servitude of horses. What a way to start. Did you ever hear? Okay, Vivian, and if not, don't worry about it because I have convinced Vivian. I have convinced her to do more Motu reviews with me, and I have a list already, and it's gonna be amazing. We're gonna go. And next one is Revelation. Okay, we have to address it, I guess, but I have a list, and it's like the first movie with him and She-Ra, which was actually in theaters in some countries. So you'll hear the original voice of Swiftwind. Have you ever heard it?
I think you showed it to me once before. It's like a very deep voice, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's like so like this what this voice was. It's like, hey, She-Ra.
It's like they got Idris Elba to play in the new Sonic movie.
Knuckles, yeah.
Knuckles, yeah.
There's
I
gonna
feel
be
like
a lot of people who are gonna feel sexually confused, I'm sure.
yeah.
Yeah. The first, you know what? That Sonic movie was actually pretty good.
I haven't seen it, but I've only heard good things.
It's like Venom, like it's a movie that is totally out of the 90s with sort of updated effects.
Yeah.
Sort of. But then it's not a bad movie. It happens to be a good 90s movie that just happened to show up way later. And you can see why they actually went and redid the special effects when people had a bad reaction to Sonic's original look in the trailer. And you can see that they were like, this is a good movie. Let's fix this because we have something here. And they did. It was actually really charming. I was surprised. But nevertheless, we'll get into Swiftman's voice and when we watch other stuff. And oh my God, Vivian, I'm also gonna make you watch that 80s Master of the Universe live action movie.
I'll watch it.
Frank Langella's Skeletor is the movie is worth it just for that.
Skeletor was one of my favorite. Like, I've seen a couple of He-Man episodes, like the original one, and in the Masters of the Universe series that we're going to talk about later, He-Man was probably my favorite character. Not He-Man, sorry. Skeletor was probably my favorite character, so I am looking forward to seeing the live-action Skeletor because he just can't very well.
It's amazing, and okay, I'm gonna stop here because I want to talk about these things about the movie when we get to it. It might be the next one after Relation. It might have to be that because there's so much. Like just because of Langella, he's amazing. And let me just say, okay, I'll say this: you have Dolph Lundgren, who's like this action movie star from the '90s, who looks down upon that movie that he did, like, oh, it was like a toy movie, whatever. And Frank Langella, the legit serious actor, looks so fondly upon that movie. He really looked fondly upon the time he played Skeletor. So, and you can totally see it in the energy each brings to the role, let's say.
Yeah, like you can, even if it's a bad role, you can still bring fun to it, Like if you're just like, this is kind of a little campy and not great, but just run, embrace him.
Look, he improvised some lines for Skeletor, and it's like Shakespearean shit. It's like he goes in like how. Oh my God. Okay, wait. We're gonna go back to Sheer in a moment, but I just have to find a quote.
While you're looking that up, I found out today that Isaac Asimov wrote a treatise on Shakespeare, and it's like a 600-page collection of all his reviews of Shakespeare plays and stuff like that, which is amazing.
Oh wow, I'm gonna have to look that up. Let me see. Okay, wait. It's oh, by the way, there's even old DC Comics where Superman and He-Man crossover, so that's also something that we're gonna have to. Okay. It's so Shakespeare. I think this is Frank Langella improvised this line, and when like He-Man is captured, at some point in the movie, and Skeletor taunting him that his friends aren't there, of course, right before they show up to save him,
Of course.
And he goes like, "Where are they? Where are your friends now? Tell me about the loneliness of good, He-Man. Is it equal to the loneliness of evil?" So, like, he brought the energy, you know what I mean? Like. Anyway, okay, let's go back to She-Ra. But I think I'm looking forward to us reviewing the '80s movie, definitely. Okay, Swiftwind, he was fun. Swiftwind was really fun, and he was like really like I have a theory about the old voice that was so raspy and manly, and I think it's the same way the original He-Man was meant to be this power fantasy for young boys. I have the power and all that, which we'll get to in Revelation. She-Ra was like, what about like the sister, the sister of the boy, and that was the whole marketing campaign was to appeal to the boys and to the girls, of course. So my theory for Swiftwind's old voice, like she gets to ride this like Pegasus with that voice. It's almost like, whatever like the parental figure, the dad or whatever, like she gets to be in control, you know, like this is my theory. I don't know if this was on purpose or not, but it's kind of like they give that original Swiftwind such like a deep voice and raspy, like Swiftwind is like an old joke online was that Swiftwind was always smoking cigarettes. Like that was the old joke. But this one is more like, sorry?
Every time he's off screen, he's just smoking.
Bojack Swiftwind.
Yeah.
So, but this one's like charisma, like at 18, you know, like it was really fun. Madame Raz, this is a character that, you know, you keep saying like, oh, if they had used a character too much, this is where I will step in and say, if they had used this character too much, she would have overstayed her welcome. But they used her in a way and where for me she remained mysterious, and you were like always eager to know more. I don't know. You seem to agree, but
I loved Madame Raz. One of my favorite characters. Like one of the few times I cried in the show was Madame Raz's scenes, where like just her going back and forth between Adora and Mara, and like the promises and the sacrifices and all of that, and just like
I forgot that.
Oh,
you know,
Oh, and sorry, one last thing. They do something which I wish more shows did, is they never fully explain her. They keep her mysterious. They're never like, this is actually the reason behind her powers and stuff like that. It's like they hint at it, but they leave it kind of a little bit vague.
Yes, which, and I'm going to go into a more overall thing. Just to say quickly, I have to say, Madame Raz, I forgot that it hit me, but it did, because if anyone has ever dealt with a loved one who's older and is starting to lose their faculties, it's rough. And that, for that reason, if only for that reason alone, struck me. Also want to say, so Vivian, you've been a player in my like D&D, well, Castles and Crusades is the rule set, campaign for many, many years. You know that I love the eccentric, crazy, powerful characters.
Oh, yeah.
This is totally something, when this character showed up, I was like, yeah, that's actually the kind of character I like to throw at my players. Like just leaving hints, and because, they're weird and they're super powerful, they don't have to explain themselves. They just, so it's super useful for a game master. You just drop a few clues, and you can leave it vague, so you're not like tied down to specific details. So if you have like a vague idea of something, you don't need to elaborate too much. You just drop a hint.
Yeah.
And yeah. So I love that kind of character for my tabletop role-playing games, depending on the setting and mood. But
obviously,
classic D&D, like I do find it useful. But you're talking about something that, you know how you say they don't explain too much, and what's kind of interesting is, in a way, the magic in this version of She-Ra is explained as magitech technology, right?
Yeah.
And yet, what's interesting, they also cannot treat it as magic as well. It's like, this is the only show I've seen that flirts with the idea that magic is technology, but then keeps the magic magical. It's kind of weird. Like, at the end, I'm not sure which one is which is a compliment, not a,
Yeah, I agree. Like, and especially at first, I thought magic was sort of just localized to Etheria. But then you find the episode with where Catra gets the magic hat, whose name eludes me, unfortunately. But the one that can like turn invisible and stuff like that. It's kind of implied that there was magic there at one point as well. So I do like sort of that magic is outside of just Etheria as well. But Etheria has its own magic, which felt very early Final Fantasy games, where it's like crystal magic, there's like these crystals that are powering the world. But like you said, is it the technology or is it the magic that is causing the magic? Yeah.
Yeah, it was well made. No, I see here Tall Star, and I don't remember her.
The name rings a bell.
Tall Star. What'd she do? Let me open the tab. See, this is like, it's been so long since we saw it. I love it starts that she's the tallest of her siblings. Oh yeah, okay. They come across a bunch of characters at some point. I think She-Ra can transform at that moment. It's okay. Doesn't matter.
Oh yeah, that's on the mining planet.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
I
That's
mean,
one of those things that it's like 3 characters to show the outside world and the war going on.
yeah.
They're exposition characters. If there was ever going to be a spin-off show, they would tie into that spin-off show. If they wanted to show like the greater war going on kind of thing.
Oh my god, I just saw something that we're gonna get to that character. I just saw something, I lost it, but we're gonna get to it. Yeah, okay, so let's skip a few, but one minor character that I will not skip, I refuse to skip. That character is amazing. Is Tong Lashore, the snake man who goes whip. Remember that one?
Very vaguely, and especially like the name and the name of the character is the same thing.
Yeah, like he has his whip and he goes whip whip. That was amazing. That's in the same spot as Huntara, who we both really liked as a character, and to me she was like a half orc or an orc. I don't know, like that's why.
Yeah.
Ranger, you know. But I just read here that she is voiced by Gina Davis.
I'm very bad with celebrity names, so I don't know.
Okay, well, yeah, okay. I might be older than you. I think I am. So yeah. It's possible that. Okay, Gina Davis. Well, she used to be. Well, she's a celebrity, but she used to be in a few movies, including a movie that didn't do very well at the box office, but it was way before Pirates of the Caribbean. Gina Davis was the Cutthroat Island, and they had like amazing sets for that movie and all that. And that was way before Pirates of the Caribbean was a thing. Like they tried to bring pirate movies back, it didn't work at that moment. I guess you needed Johnny Depp for that. She was also in Long Kiss Goodnight. Was that it? It was a really cool movie. Like she's this amnesiac housewife.
Mm-hmm.
She's just like she doesn't like she was just found on the beach one day. She doesn't remember her past, and she becomes like this. She marries a man, and like I don't remember if they have a kid or if I think they have a kid. But then it turns out her past catches up with her, and she used to be like an assassin. And Samuel L. Jackson is also in that movie. And
oh, nice.
I remember as a teenager, I thought it was pretty cool. I really liked that. As an action movie, it was pretty solid. Sometimes you rewatch them and you realize, like, okay, I guess my standards were different when I was a teen, but okay, let's see.
But I do wish they had more Huntara in the show. That's my only criticism of Huntara, is there wasn't enough of her.
Yeah, she was cool.
Yeah.
I don't know what she used to look like. Let me see, because maybe she's one of those characters that a lot of people were angry she didn't look like, because she was so muscle bound.
Well, I feel like because Huntara only showed up in like season 2, season 3, and I feel like a lot of
wow, she had that vibe. If you look Huntara original on Google, like I'm kind of surprised because it looks like a character that could have been from the new version. I don't know how to say this in a way that wouldn't put me in
oh yeah, she's great.
Oil, but the haircut and the muscle. Is there one for me?
She's even got a tattoos.
He looks like a modern character that you see these days that people complain about the haircut, but back then.
Like the outfit is a little ridiculous, but the character design is like very on point.
I prefer the new look.
Because yeah, me too.
You can tell they're already going for that anyway. Like I kind of like the orcish elements they added, like the ears. And did she have tusks in the new one? No, just in her ears. Oh, she had like earrings that were tusks. Yeah. Okay. Again, what's kind of funny about Huntara, she's also the kind of character I drop as NPCs in my games, like the like I think I dropped like there was like this half orc, like female barbarian maybe, or was it a drow? I forget. Anyway, I remember like dropping that kind of character in the game as well. So there's some like archetypes that actually it's kind of funny. I kind of use in my D&D games. Light Hope.
Light Hope is one of those characters that I was sort of ambivalent towards. Like, until the very end where you like learn Light Hope's backstory and stuff like that. And it's like one of those things that the first half of the show, Light Hope kind of feels sort of just like an exposition character. Like, Light Hope, tell us what's going on.
Yeah.
Sure, Dora, this is what's going on.
Yeah.
Which is like important to have a lot of the times. But doesn't really like lead to me caring about the character. Like, I don't dislike them, but I'm just like, yeah, this character is there to serve.
I didn't see her as a character at first at all. I just saw her as this like program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then at the end, you find out her like relationship with Mara and like kind of what she go through, and I think they did a very good job of like humanizing her. Yeah, like I think a solid character, doesn't stand out much, but has a solid base.
You know, between Adora not knowing her past, and Madame Raz and Light Hope also kind of being like the past, they struggle with their memories and all that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Look, it's been so long since I saw that, and it was a friend who like insisted on showing me this show, and then I also saw the movie of it, and I have like vague memories, but I remember the music being really kick-ass. Have you ever seen? Forgot the full title. It's an anime, Utena.
Oh yes.
Okay.
Yes. Well, I haven't seen the anime. I've only read the manga.
Okay.
But
I'm sure.
I know there's differences between the anime and the manga, but Utena's classic shoujo. Yeah.
Are there parallels, or am I just like, I'm just going like, oh yeah, female character with a sword, she's gay, therefore Link. But
well, it's definitely Utena is
like
one
the
of
whole
those
memory. Sorry, go ahead.
Utena is definitely one of those things that like the effects of Utena go out throughout the entire genre. If it's gay and it has swords, it's probably going to like, even if they're not aware of its effect on the show, the effect is going to be there. It's sort of like Akira. Like, even if things aren't directly referencing Akira a lot of the times, like it's had such a big influence on the genre that if you're getting it, like you might be referencing something that had referenced Akira, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
and
no, it makes
it's
sense.
kind of the same way.
So yeah, I guess some themes, like for example, in Akira, the brutality of the cyberpunk genre for a lot of stuff, and the look of it, and then what the bikes look like.
Yeah.
In a big one, you know, and then the whole memory, because I guess like, you know, like this show deals with identity on many levels, like she when Adora changes into She-Ra, like, you know, like memories is a big part of who we are, you know, like remembering stuff, and either our own memories or what other people remember of us, and you know, like I feel like it made the show. I'm not going to pretend it's like this deep philosophical show. It isn't. It's very, you know, it's very light, as it should be. It's a cartoon, and you know, like, and even though other people disagree with me because of certain themes, like I do think it's all ages, you know, like so for kids to watch as well and all that. It never goes into explicit stuff, so. But I do think it gives it this little extra quality when they do at least touch upon those themes. Even if they don't, like, it's not like they go into that like to the same level as more adult stories would, but they do broach upon those themes, and that in itself is really interesting that they do.
Well, I think it's important because like if you look at a lot of YA fiction and stuff like that, they do tackle these themes because it's like it's been a while since I've been a teenager. But you do, like, you're feeling all of these emotions, and you are questioning who you are and all of these things. Like, identity is a huge theme of teenagehood, so it's important for shows to tackle those things.
You know, it's interesting. Like everyone says that. Everyone I meet says that, and I guess I don't know. I never struggled with who I was.
Well, that's good.
Weird flex, I know, to mention it, but I just I don't know. I always knew I was me. I don't know how else to put it.
Well, I don't think, at least like for me, it wasn't like it was sort of like exploring who you are rather than questioning what I am, if that makes sense. Like I knew I was me, but what does it mean to be me?
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what most people tell me. Like, no matter like what background, like most people tell me this, and I don't know. I don't. I appreciate it. I understand it on an intellectual level, but on an emotional level, I never experienced it. You know, like
That's amazing.
but it's. I'm not. I just feel. I don't know. I guess I always knew myself pretty well. It doesn't mean I know myself in all aspects, and you always learn more about yourself. But I was always pretty secure in who I was. You know, like I was never like comments made at me would never really faze me or things like that, or like I didn't need a lot of friends, and you know, like I was never one to try to seek out the approval of whoever was popular at school or anything like that, or I don't know. But at the same time, like I am fascinated though with how we remember things, how it affects our identity, how like these things do fascinate me a lot, because on some level, how people remember us as well is very important. You know, like we are affected by what people say and think of us, at least when we're young. So that much I also think is very relevant. Okay, before we pretend that this is some like psychological essay, I'm gonna let you go first on this one. Peekaboo.
Remind me who that was.
Shapeshifter.
Oh,
and I don't remember what the pronouns or identity was for Peekaboo.
Well, okay, Peekaboo, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah.
There's sort of two Peekaboos, because there's the original one who was not a shapeshifter.
From the original show, you mean?
Sorry?
From the original show?
No, like in She-Ra, like in the new one, because a large part of it, they're double trouble, pretending to be them.
Oh yeah, okay, thank you. Okay, yeah, double trouble. Yeah, it's true. I forgot that element of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And we do meet them before Double Trouble assumes their identity.
So let's go with Double Trouble, because Peekaboo is kind of like just, well, unless you have something to say about Peekaboo, but
no, I mean like not really.
No, Double Trouble. Okay, my bad. You know, like I actually, but I didn't remember the link. But let's see, it's not even on the list of characters. Maybe it's a spoiler. Anyway, okay, Double Trouble. Yeah, what do you?
So my opinion on Double Trouble is I love Double Trouble. I understand and appreciate the criticism that like sort of shapeshifters and non-binary identities is sort of like a trope.
Yeah.
And it's something that I understand the criticism of, but also is like a thing in mythology for like a lot of cultures of like shape-shifting tricksters. It's like ingrained in our mythology to a way, like even if you want to go to the Marvel universe, Loki, you know, like it is a thing. It's one of my favorite tropes and experiences because of the chaos that it can bring, and just the like fuckery of gender norms can be a lot of fun. And I think it's one of those things that on its own isn't an issue, but is an issue because it's the only representation.
Okay, this reminds me of part 1 where I was talking about like the Catra and Adora, how Catra is toxic and what does it mean when there's not that much mainstream representation. You want to tell me there's a lot of material, but if we talk mainstream, there isn't.
Yeah.
And I thought the same thing, and I'm not someone who goes looking for it. I know that like I feel like I'm reviewing She-Ra with you and I'm agreeing a lot, but because the writing was well done. And also on some level, maybe because I was not that exposed to the original She-Ra, so it's not like to me I saw these radical changes. To me, they were all new characters. So
exactly. Same
thing.
I'll
also be open about that, because the best way I can put this is I'm not Mr. Oh, I'll never criticize a change when you grab a character who's a certain way and you change the character to be a minority of some sort. I'm not always on board.
I think it has to make sense.
I'm not like automatically on board. Oh, this, for example, like very horrible casting, in my opinion. The new Interview with a Vampire show, Louis de Poindulac, who was a slave owner, which, yeah, is a problem that you need to, and it's kind of ironic, the vampire who's the most human also owns slaves, and the original movie kind of like skips over that, and like, if anything, like that original movie, like a slave is like, oh, we're worried about you, master, you haven't visited the slave pens in a while, and it's like, okay, maybe you need to revisit this story more honestly in a new show, modernize it, and then if you really want to change the gender of a character, I think Claudia would have been a good choice. If you absolutely wanted to change, I'm not against it, but but you have to make the right choices. They grabbed Louis, and the casting is they chose a person of color, a black actor, and of course I mean, apparently historically he might have been a slave owner, possibly. Like, there were apparently some freed people of color. I'm not good with history, but instead they made him a brothel owner. So they took a character who was originally white and a slave owner, and now made him a black pimp.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna, and I see comments on like, oh, inspired choice, and no one has the guts to just go like, isn't this people have, like, a lot of people online are having the guts, and then you also have a lot of racism, of course, because there's no nuance, but then the mainstream media is all like inspired choice, and then there's one article that goes, Louis de Poindulac, who was a slave owner, and then they just talk about the casting. You see that the writer was passively aggressive, criticizing it without being able to talk about it. To me, that's an offensive change.
Yeah.
So, you know, and sometimes it's kind of like, I'm not trying to defend myself. I'm not woke or whatever. What I mean is, when I talk about these things, is I want to make it clear. I'm not like automatically on board with whatever change, and I'm not like always looking for problems in representation and all that. It's not my jam. It's not how I consume media. I understand how other people, maybe they just, it's just how they have to see the world. You know, everyone's different. That's cool. And those are debates to be had. But in the case of Double Trouble, and if it offends anyone, I'm sorry, but I think it just makes sense. Because Double Trouble, when Double Trouble changes, you can really tell that Double Trouble, on some level, like the way I understood is like the brain rewires. They really, I don't remember pronouns, but Double Trouble really becomes that person on some level. Like, like emotionally and all that. Like, to me, it's not just good acting. It's really, I think it's even implied or mentioned that, like, for Double Trouble, like, the supreme acting is becoming, you know, like.
Exactly, yeah.
So it's not, I don't see it as just a physical change. So how can you be someone who changes your personality constantly and then not have maybe different pronouns? And, like, you know, like, and some people have misused this in fantasy very often. For example, the Doctor from Doctor Who is not someone who would use non-binary pronouns, because the Doctor, when the Doctor regenerated, I don't know if you watch Doctor Who, but
I sort of stopped at the beginning of the Capaldi seasons.
A lot of people did, and then you stick with it and it gets better. I mean, it's always good, but the characterization is rough at first. But then I kind of realized that the Capaldi Doctor was kind of a little bit like me. Like, you're gonna help people and you're gonna care, but you don't always show it in the best way, or you might be rough around the edges when you do it. Like, I've saved people from danger in real life, and sometimes I also scare the person I was saving as I save them. You know what I mean? Like.
And I think if you're going to go into Doctor Who, I think that is fine. That wasn't my criticism of Capaldi's thing. Mine was more, you had all this character growth in the previous Doctors that I feel like were removed.
It's brought back.
Okay.
It's brought back. In some cases, big time. You have flashbacks to the 10th Doctor, and you, when you look at classic Who, that was also a thing, you know. And I think Capaldi was this callback to the classic Doctor, because you have, like, after Eccleston was not a classic Doctor in how he dressed, and he was more like rough and tumble. So even though he wasn't like the young lead, he was still not a classic Doctor. And then you look at 10 and Heartthrob. I don't know if they intended it to be, but David Tennant had something going on, you know. And then Matt Smith, again, not your traditional heartthrob, but I think he was still like a young man, you know, like who was not maybe traditionally good looking, but had a lot of charisma, and you could argue that 10 and 11 are not that different. You know, they're not. You can mention the differences. There are differences, but you know, like they're pretty. You can write them the same, and the actor is going to make it different. But you don't need to change the writing for 10 and 11 that much.
That's fair,
in my opinion. And then Capaldi was kind of like, well, like let's just do a classic Doctor in New Who before a big drastic change, where like Jodie Whittaker becoming the next Doctor, 13th Doctor, because the John Hurt Doctor is not in the numbers, and and then some people have kind of tried to argue that the Doctor shouldn't use binary pronouns because the Doctor can change sex, but I disagree with that because each regeneration is kind of like set until the next.
Yeah, and like each regeneration is kind of its own person. Like it's shown that they get their own quirks and their own feelings and their own emotions and all of that. So like, also the Doctor isn't speaking English, and it's the auto-translating that does the language. Exactly. So I think.
Well, I'm pretty sure the Doctor knows how to speak English, though. Like, I'm sure English. There's been moments, I think, when the chameleon, the TARDIS was not doing the translation, and he was still able to communicate, and he's obsessed with Earth. I think the Doctor himself or herself right now can speak all the languages of Earth. That's my theory, if it hasn't been confirmed, without the translator. I don't think he's speaking Gallifreyan cheese right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think it's like you can use that. Anyway, big off track for the Doctor here, but yeah, I understand that Double Trouble was a villain, and that, you know, again, like how many, you know, the other, you know, like it's kind of like that trope, right, or whatever you want to call it. But
also, Double Trouble falls into the like, they're definitely evil.
Okay. Yeah.
They're definitely evil, but they're also just like mercenary, where it's just like, oh yeah, I'll just go with whoever the highest bidder is. I don't care about the like fascist government. Like
that's evil. That's evil.
I'm not loyal to them. I'm loyal to money. And Catra forgets that.
It's true. Yeah, but Catra had it coming. You know, like Catra, I just, the more I think about Catra, and the more I hate her. I just.
I do like Catra.
Adora could have done so much better.
I mean, I'm gonna agree with that. But
yeah, like, just wait it out. You're like the biggest hero on the planet. Just, you know, give yourself some time, girl. Like, think about it.
There are other lesbians. Don't worry.
You know, it's especially in a Noel show. You know, so it. Also, I'm not a fan, and this is very much anime-like, which I guess the new Shira took inspiration from. I'm actually not a fan of the whole trope of your childhood friend becomes your adult partner.
Oh, me neither.
No offense to anyone anime it happened for, but
that's not just an anime thing. That's in like all kinds of fiction in like the West as well. Like Harry Potter did it. A bunch of things do it, and it bothers me.
Yeah, predetermined. You know, like it's just, I find it weird. I don't know, and I don't, you know, if whoever out there, like if someone's listening, like, hey, Bruno, fuck you. Like my wife, I met her when I was 7.
Yeah,
like
my parents
you, like
it's just sweethearts.
Yeah, like it just so happened like that. That's cool, but to kind of engineer it, I mean, it's kind of. I think it's I think there are people find something cute about it, but to me, it's, I don't know. I don't connect with that, you know, like I think it's much, so to me, like all their memories as kids and all that are not arguments for, okay, there you go, I found a way to express it. I don't have an issue per se with that, it's just that the way they always explain the adult love, they involve the childhood memories in it. Like the connections made as kids are not what you make adult relationships of, and it just bugs me every time I see it. I might be more on board if it's more a thing like I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I guess Rachel Dawes in Batman Begins and Dark Knight wasn't a thing like where, I guess that's the one moment where, and it doesn't pan out anyway, but it goes up in flames. But I guess they didn't make it weird. It was more like they knew each other, so they trusted each other, but there's a gap and they meet as adults. And then you see there's something there as adults, and even though they flash back to it after, you never feel like they're establishing that adult romance based on their childhoods. Whereas with Sheer and Ketch, I thought they did, which I found very immature in a way. Obviously, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think she should have taken her time. You know, it's lots of emotions, saving your friends, saving the world, and all that, and then like, oh, you get carried away, and yeah, before you know it, you might want to think about the war crimes that your girlfriend committed. You know.
Well, that's kind of all glossed over. You know, everything's okay now.
Yeah. Are we cool with this now? Are we okay with this? Okay. Well, last one before we finish this and go to film revelation. Horde Prime.
Horde Prime is, I think, a good villain. You know, like, he wasn't there for that long.
No.
You get his motives. He's kind of just like the big bad evil. He's trying to take over the galaxy. He just clones himself a lot. He's got the aesthetic down. Well, he's got an aesthetic down.
I wasn't like, I found his aesthetic. I get that there was purpose behind how clean and uniform it all was. His look.
Well, it was to evoke like cult imagery, right?
Yeah, and I guess like very like his personality is not that. He's not that expressive. He's not like and like everyone's the same. I guess, you know, like whatever tyrannical regime, be it on left or right, they're like, it's kind of everyone kind of has the same thoughts, aesthetics, and whatever, and which fits with this villain who clones himself, and then Hordak was different. And I guess to me, what bugged me is how. I guess I blame Horde Prime for having removed Hordak from last season, because even though Hordak is a total villain, I'm not rooting for him.
Oh, Hordak is much better.
I love the character. I like, that was a fun character to follow.
Oh yeah, we do get wrong Hordak though.
Yeah.
Which is fun.
That was funny. Yeah, that was funny. The voice actor wasn't removed. The designs were there. You know, like, it's not like we were Hordak-less, but the true Hordak was there for like 5 seconds, which I found unacceptable. Even though I also find it weird how quick they forgive him, but okay, I guess, you know, you save the world and all that. But then, like, that guy killed so many people.
Oh like, yeah, they could easily do a sequel to She-Ra where it's just like 2 months in the future, and everyone is like, this person did genocide. Like, there are groups of people who are no longer here because he killed them.
Yeah. What do we do about it? You know? I feel like maybe given 1 or 2 more seasons, if you establish Horde Prime a bit more, and it becomes like Horde Prime is such a big bad that you see everyone agree, hey, you know what, our previous enemy doesn't matter. If you had established that, then you can imagine a future where Hordak, everyone goes like, yeah, fuck that guy, but also we have a treaty because we agreed to this. Whereas here, it happens so fast that there's no moment for anyone to go like, yeah, you know what, this is a choice we're making now. Like, it's kind of like everyone has to go along because like Entrapta likes him, which I don't know what to think about that, but.
And that kind of goes back to like something I said last time too, which is I feel like the ending was a little rushed.
Oh,
like,
very rushed.
There could have been
the biggest flaw of the show, yeah.
Yeah, and on the one hand, it's like, that's not necessarily Noelle's fault. Like, sometimes you have sort of what you want to do, and then you have the budget, and those don't line up.
But could I say that what happens sometimes is it's good for artists to have a vision of where it's going to go. But sometimes what happens in the case of TV shows, they're so set on that vision that if something changes, like they have less time than they thought they did, I think sometimes it's good to change that ending to fit how much time you have left. This feels like maybe Noelle had less time than she thought she would have. Maybe I'm wrong. But she stuck to the ending she had in mind originally.
Yeah.
But then you don't have the time to.
But also depends on like where they find out that they're losing the time and money. Like, I don't know how familiar you are with the Avatar series. Okay. There's an Avatar.
I know that I know it's an amazing movie by Night Shyamalan.
Exactly.
It's perfectly cast.
Very, very much so. Yeah.
Like the casting was on point, 100%, no issues there.
Okay. Do you know? I was reminded of this recently. Have you seen the opening sequence of Avatar at all? Like, just because it's like a popular show, you might have seen.
I know the Fire Nation attacked or something. I've seen the memes.
So in the introduction, every time there's earth, wind, water, fire. And there's like an animation of someone bending that element, and there's Chinese characters in the back. In the movie, they do that, but instead of Chinese characters, they just put gibberish. They just put like random stroke marks and stuff like that. And like, it's the most mind-boggling change because it's there already in the original. They could have just taken the characters that were there and put them on. They didn't even have to research anything. They just chose to make it racist. Yeah.
It's kind of well because Shyamalan is of Indian descent, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the villains were all Indian actors, I think.
Yes. Yeah, they changed the Fire Nation.
White guys were the good guys.
Yeah.
Now, might be a producer thing. I don't know. Maybe it was his only way of casting Indian actors, Indian American actors and such. I don't know. Anyway.
But back to the other point is Korra, which was the sequel.
Yeah. I think we talked about it in part 1 as well. Yeah.
Probably. The budget when they were making it was just super wonky. And it was like changing like almost episode to episode as they were producing it.
Okay.
So they had like difficulty planning ahead because like 1 week it's like, oh yeah, we have budget for like 4 episodes. And then the next week it's like, sorry, only budget for 2 episodes.
Wow.
And then it's like, oh, actually we're doing 3 episodes. Or will there be a second season or not? Who knows? Like, and it shows, I remember watching it live and it really showed because the first Avatar series is 3 seasons and it's 1 story and it flows really well. It is a masterpiece. I think you would really like it. It holds up. It's really good. But then
I'm trying to skip the Motu though. We got a lot of Motu to go through. So
oh no, definitely, yeah. So back to She-Ra. It really depends on, like, we'll probably never know if it was the studio.
Yeah, maybe she didn't know a lot ahead of time, and maybe she didn't even have time to create new stories or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna go with my parting thing to say, and then if you have something to add as well, and we're gonna like wrap this up. And again, you can bring up other stuff if I forgot to mention, of course. What I found interesting is, like She-Ra, like He-Man is by the power of Grayskull, and She-Ra's by the honor of Grayskull. And I was, because they kept that, I was hoping we'd see He-Man at some point, or that we'd see the castle or a crossover or something. And then Grayskull turned out to be, and this disappointed me. Although I understood that it had to have its own mythology, and they had at some point to. The catchphrase, or the mantra, or whatever you want to call it, is iconic for She-Ra, by the honor of Grayskull, and then She-Ra, and then like they had to keep it, I guess, and then you have to explain. And Grayskull was, I think, the name of the special ops group. She was her parents were. Wait, she was a baby. What was that again? Like Grayskull was the original She-Ra's special ops group, or
exactly, that was like there to explode the universe essentially by blowing up Etheria.
Okay, wow, yeah, that's true.
If I remember correctly, it's been a while, and that part was kind of so. I agree, that was like a weaker part, and I don't really remember it.
Like it's the honor of Grayskull, and Grayskull. Yeah, that was the name of the special ops team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially when you know what the original Grayskull was, We'll talk about Grayskull and Revelation as well. But yeah, and I think that it's safe to say, and we'll talk about in Revelation, that this show influenced Revelation a lot, but they took the wrong lessons from it, I think.
I'm interested to hear what lessons do you think they took from it?
I think we'll get to it. But I think they looked at She-Ra, they took the wrong lessons from it, and they maybe thought they had the same audience. And there's people like me who'll be the honest for both, but you have to do both with a theme that you're supposed to be doing them.
Yeah.
That's anyway. Okay. Any parting words about She-Ra and the Princess of Power, or anything you want to bring up that I completely forgot? And you're like, Bruno, like in part 1 you mentioned this. I didn't have time to explain this.
I guess two quick things.
Yeah.
One, despite all my criticism of it, I do still like the Katadora ship. Despite all the problems with it,
I'm glad we don't agree on everything.
Yeah.
I don't agree the horse is a communist, and we don't agree on this. Okay, so that's at least it doesn't look like we're like, hey, this is an echo chamber. Welcome.
Yeah. Like I do think all the criticisms of it are valid, but I still love it. Like, okay. And I do like Katra the character too. Yeah, she was my wallpaper background for a while. Cool. Yeah.
Sorry, which one?
Oh, Katra.
Katra was. Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Very well. I see.
And the second thing is I did look up the Perfuma being trans. Okay. And Noelle Stevenson has confirmed it. And normally I give zero credit to people who confirm their character's sexuality or stuff outside of media. Yeah. But I'm giving her a pass on this one. I'm going to take the win and claim Perfuma as a trans woman.
But that's fair. You can really tell that it's something she would have done if she could.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. This is my opinion. I don't know this, but come on. Yeah.
So, like she wrote a trans character in Lumberjanes, and I'm pretty sure she has a trans character in Nimona as well. Yeah. So like, yeah.
So you could say that. And that makes Double Trouble a lot less problematic when you have a heroic trans character there also to balance it out, I guess. You know, like if that's, you know. But at the end of the day, I think I'm gonna say something that feel free to disagree with me or to agree or to have a like this in between opinion. I think sometimes what can happen with minority groups is, as a cisgender straight white guy, let me give you my opinion. I think sometimes with minority groups, yes, take the pause. So there's so much that's done wrong that of course it becomes frustrating, and I get that. And then sometimes it can become counterproductive.
Oh yeah, because
you're looking for problems everywhere, and then I see, especially on Twitter, wonderful place. I've seen like. People turn on writers who they themselves are part of whatever group they were writing a story for.
Oh, it's like, a huge problem.
Take them to task, like, oh, you've betrayed your team, you know. And I'm like, geez, can I just tell the story they want to tell? Yeah. Like, and then they, God forbid, someone who's not part of that group goes, you know what? I want to help. I want to write a story, and I'm going to include this character. And then it's like, wow, they take them to task if anything is perceived as like not done particularly well, or you know, like so I think there's also this aspect which discourages even creators who are part of a community to maybe sometimes broach these matters, because and then you like people criticizing, like very often, like what have they done or created, or like they just tweet about it in 5 minutes. You know, maybe they don't know a lot of stuff that happened. Maybe they don't know like what they had to deal with editors and producers and.
Oh yeah, and there's so much stuff. Like Noelle had to fight tooth and nail to get any representation in at all. Like the only reason, and I believe she's on record saying this, that she was able to get Katra to be canon at the end was because she was able to build it up from the beginning and be like, this is the only thing that makes sense. And if she had brought it up in season 1, she was like, I probably would have been shot down because I didn't have the clout to make a main character gay. Like,
well, in the dance scene where Katra was wearing the suit, like
Yeah.
Yeah. Like whether
Well,
they're going to confirm or not, we knew. Yeah.
You have Steven Universe, where Rebecca Sugar was sent, like Steven Universe was censored in a lot of countries. They made one of the there's like a, I don't know if you've seen Steven Universe or know all the characters.
It doesn't appeal to me, to be honest. Like I've seen a little bit. Fair. Like I feel like it's not for me. Then again, I really enjoyed She-Ra, so I might give it a shot. You know, but
if you're gonna watch it, the beginning of Steven Universe is a little slow. The first, like, I would say even like 6 episodes, they're 10-minute episodes. They're a little slow, but then it really kicks off. But in like, I believe it's Russia, they got one of the Butch characters is voiced by a man because they wanted to make it a heterosexual relationship. So in the wedding scene, she had the Butch character dressed in the wedding dress and the femme character in the suit, so that when they were, like, they either had to cut this scene or it wouldn't make sense with the censorship that I had done previously. And like the amount of sort of backlash that they face from the companies and stuff like that is there. And like a lot of these creators want to try things, and like the little things that you see were fought tooth and nail to be seen.
Yeah, it's stuff like, I'm gonna use a bit of a touchy example, because you know, why not? Scarlett Johansson at some point was gonna play a trans man in a movie, and some people were like, "Oh, it should have been a trans man playing the role." And then in an interview, Scarlett got the pronouns wrong, which was even more like, you don't even get who the character is, which fair, you know, very fair. And then she stepped out of the role, and everyone was like, "Yay!" And then I don't even know what the title of the movie is.
No, yeah, it never happened.
Yeah. So, and then I'm like, you know, maybe I'm saying this again. I don't really know, but part of me thinks if I were to be part of a group who wants representation of that, I might be more pragmatic about the battles I choose, in the sense of, and this is for everyone to, you know, to choose what they want to do with it. Of course, I understand the arguments, but isn't it good for you if Scarlett Johansson does a movie where other people who might never have given a chance to even listen to the argument, and they go, okay, Scarlett Johansson is mainstream, right? I'm gonna go watch this movie, and then, oh, I feel empathy for a trans person. I never thought it would happen, you know, like, and then to me, it's kind of like, there's such a lack of pragmatism, and maybe that's not the point. Maybe I'll be told like,
yeah,
shut up with your pragmatism, but
I have a lot of opinions on this.
Yes. Yeah, I imagine.
So I think that the time for, I'm going to even go spicier. No, the time for sort of like pragmatic representation was like the 90s and 2000s.
Okay.
Where like, yeah, okay, you want to have like a dubious trans character or a dubious gay character because there was like nothing there. Sure, go for it.
When you say dubious, what do you mean by dubious? Just to make sure.
Well, like, okay, are you familiar with the Higgs Code?
No.
Okay, so the Higgs Code was a governing body in cinema in like the US for like a lot of cinema history, and it was like the moral guideline. You might know the comic version, the Comic Codes Authority.
Okay, the equivalent.
The equivalent of that. And in the Higgs Code, you could only have a gay character if they died. Or
wait, up until what year?
I'm gonna say, like, I don't remember when it ended exactly. I'm gonna say the 80s or 90s probably. They either had to die, have an unhappy ending, or like end up in a heterosexual relationship kind of thing. So
well, that explains chasing Amy. Kidding.
Yeah, well, it explains a lot of movies when you're like, oh yeah, okay, this explains it. And it's sort of unfortunate because it's sort of become, even though the code is gone, a lot of these things are built into the genre in a way. So specifically for the Scarlett Johansson movie, I'm not necessarily opposed to cis people playing trans actors, but you got to get the right cis people to play them. And have you seen who Scarlett Johansson was supposed to play? He was this giant.
Oh, it's a real person.
It's a real person.
She was gonna play.
He looks nothing like Scarlett Johansson. Oh. Like, if you had someone who was like a much bigger person and like had the like if you had a female character who could play Al Capone and you were like, this person is going to be this trans guy, this trans mob boss, I'd be like, okay, I'm not thrilled. I wish it was a trans actor, but it's like I understand the decision.
Well, it wasn't even a good fit.
Yeah, whereas Scarlett Johansson was just like, this is a big name. This will sell the movie. And to me, that's not worth it.
Okay.
But it also goes to like in a vacuum, I think any actor should be able to play any role. But we don't live in a vacuum, and like the lack of trans roles for trans actors is like there's a lot of trans roles, and if you look at all of the big trans blockbusters that have happened, they've almost all been played by cis people. And it's like at this point, yeah, you're getting people to empathize. Although then like your mom watches The Danish Girl and it's like, oh my God, is that what your experience is like? And you're like, not even close. I
haven't seen it, but I'm listening.
And there is that balance because you do want that big name to spread it, to spread the message and stuff like that. Okay. But you also want the accuracy of the experience and the lived experience. And I think like a good compromise to this is, have you seen Judas and the Black Messiah?
No. Okay. I did think of a compromise for a Johnson thing, but yeah, I'll let you go first. No, I haven't.
Very good movie. The actor who plays Fred Hampton, amazing.
Okay.
But they got him because he's a famous Black actor. And the actual Fred Hampton is 20 years younger than the actor is. And it shows, like, watching it, I was like, oh, this is someone who's like established in his like late 20s, early 30s kind of. Yeah. 20 years is a little much. But in real life, he was like an 18-year-old.
Okay.
And it changes the dynamic of the movie, but I think it's still worth it because you get that big name actor to attract people to watch your cause and stuff like that. Yeah. And finding the balance between being accurate and drawing people in to watch the movie is definitely something that people have to like work with.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like a nuance, a case-by-case thing. And I think Scarlett Johansson as that role was not the right choice.
Here's my solution to it. She stays in the movie, she just plays another role.
Yeah.
Like
exactly,
yeah. It would have, I think it would have given her a lot of clout as well. You know, like if she had done something like that, like, you know what, I'm stepping out from that role, but I'm still gonna stick with the movie. So I know, you know, like maybe she doesn't say something like, "Oh, my name will help the movie," because that might sound arrogant, but people would have understood, right? And you know, but whatever. You know, like Hollywood people are who they are, you know.
Yeah.
But okay, I didn't know that. I didn't know it was based on a true story even.
Oh yeah, no, it's based on a real person who's like a very interesting historical figure.
Okay.
In that he was a mob boss and he was trans and no one fucked with him because
really?
he was a
mob boss. Okay, so that's the example you were giving. I thought, okay. I
was referencing specifically.
I didn't want to interrupt, but I was a bit confused with that. Oh wow. Yeah. Okay. That's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not cool to be a mob boss at all, actually, but it's an interesting story is what I meant. But I don't approve of criminal activities. Like, you know, sometimes it's kind of weird. There's the Chinese pirate lady from history, and online everyone went crazy. Oh, she's so cool, like, but she was still a pirate killing people. Like,
yeah. But there's been enough distance that it's okay.
Oh.
Yeah. Killing people 800 years ago is fine.
Yeah, she committed lots of evil acts. Okay, so I think we covered pretty much everything. We wanted to cover She-Ra, and then even like other stuff that we kind of got into. And I mean, my parting words on this was admittedly from someone who didn't watch the original. Although I've been rewatching some episodes, and it's really funny because you see like a lot of characters are completely different. Like you know, like Frosta was an adult, and in a crossover episode, she flirts with He-Man, and he was really uncomfortable. That'll be another one I have to show you, and we have to go over. But just not like as a fantasy, sci-fantasy series, it was really cool, really well written, and yeah, except for the rush ending, which we, you know, we can easily imagine wasn't like the Noel's fault at all. I think it's easy to imagine like you said, like budget, or Netflix decided, you know what, like the show doesn't have the same steam anymore, or something. I don't know. I don't know what happened there, but and it certainly showed that there's still interest in that franchise universe, you know, like Masters of the Universe in general, like whatever falls in the umbrella. It's certainly, I think, reignited in the mainstream attention for that franchise, which will lead to our next stuff. And any parting words?
Nothing additionally, really. It's good. If you haven't seen it and you've watched 2 hours of us reviewing it, go watch it.
Can you imagine? So like, I'm gonna listen to these two for like 2 hours.
I have fully like watched reviews of things that I have never seen before and stuff like that. Like, it happens.
And then like someone is already from the start like, yeah, F Catra. I know what you're about. I already know. or like, you know, no, you know what? I'm gonna have Catra as my wallpaper, depending which person influenced the most there. Anyway, okay, Vivian, thank you very much for doing this, and
you're welcome.
Everyone, thanks for watching. See you next time.
See you next time.